Hey there, it's Mark from Third Shot Sports, and a few days ago I did a Facebook Live, and we talked about pickleball grips. Well, there was pretty good response to that video, so I decided to sort of repackage it and republish it here as this YouTube video so you can watch it again. Had another group, can't remember, ask me about the paddle that I was holding during this video, and it was this one, the Mach 6 from our good friends at South Creek Sport. This is the Lindsay Newman Signature Edition. Brand new. It's really cool because the handle is nice and long, so if you like a long handle, you're a two-handed player or whatever, you can get it. Anyway, check it out. I'll put it in the link below. We've got a really cool package deal happening right now. Anyway, enough from me now. Let's go to the video. Hey there, pickleball fans. Mark Renneson here from Third Shot Sports. Decided to put a little bit of a space landscape right now. Quick video here. I had a bunch of emails from people over the last little while who are asking about pickleball grips, and we know as the sport of pickleball evolves that, let me just, there's a little notification there. As the sport of pickleball evolves, then we're seeing like all sorts of different techniques happening, and so a lot of questions about different grips. One, what their names are, their technical terms. Two, what sort of a less technical term is, like you might hear people talking about it. And three, why you might use one grip versus another one. Okay, so if you're interested in that, pay attention. We're going to talk about those things right now. So first things first, let's take what we might call like a pretty neutral grip, one that you could use for lots of different shots. And that would be the Continental Grip. And the Continental Grip, the way you find the Continental Grip, see the edge of the paddle here? Imagine that goes all the way down. And on the paddle, there's a like kind of a flat spot here. We call that a bevel. That's the technical term. Anyway, the top bevel here, if you take the V of your hand between your thumb and your index finger, and you put it right on that top bevel, right, almost like you're holding a hammer. Here, if I hold it this way, you can see, right, almost like you're holding a hammer. Okay, that kind of a grip is called a Continental Grip. That's the technical term for it. Continental Grip, I don't know why it's called that. It's a whatever, doesn't matter. Continental Grip. And it's just like you're holding a hammer. And sometimes the less technical term, but sometimes people use it, is called a V grip. And the reason you can understand, it's the V of your hand between your thumb and index finger right there. Okay, so that's one of the grips, a very neutral grip. And what would be the benefit of this? Well, there's a few of them. One is you can hit pretty much every pickleball shot with that same grip. You'll notice that it opens the paddle face slightly. That's really nice if you're hitting a serve and you want a bit of an arc. Let's say you're playing a return of serve and you want to do that. It's great on the backhand as well, right? Again, you have that open paddle face. You can volley with it. It's a really versatile grip. You can hit lots of dinks with this Continental Grip. Again, the paddle face is open, slightly on both sides. You would definitely want to use this grip if you're playing with backspin, because backspin typically requires a high to low swing path, a slightly downward swing path, and this is quite easy to do. Anyways, it's a very versatile grip. And just because it's sort of naturally, here I'll stand so you can see, it naturally opens the paddle face, doesn't mean you always have to hit with an open paddle face. From here, I could turn it, maybe I'll see it better this way, naturally open paddle face. I could also turn it, crack, right here, and I can get a more neutral paddle face. So I can still keep the ball a little bit lower, and that's true whether I'm hitting a forehand, or assume I'm hitting that way, I can hit my backhand. Again, it's naturally open, but I can turn it a little bit to have a more neutral face. So this is a very versatile grip. When I first got into pickleball, I suggested to everybody, hey, just use a Continental Grip. You can hit all the shots you need to without worrying about it. So that's one option, okay? Now, what is another grip that you could use? Well, let's say I'm hitting a forehand, I'm hitting it that way, and I don't want to always have to be turning my hand like this to close the paddle face. That's kind of annoying to keep doing that. So what I could do, I've got my Continental Grip here, okay, is I could just loosen my hand and let it turn. And so now my hand is pretty much in the same position, but the paddle is not. And so now you'll see that my hand is just slightly behind the handle. The bevel that it's on now, it's sort of on that corner. So the V of my hand, okay, is kind of on the corner now. The knuckle, index knuckle, is on the flat side here. And when you hit like this, with your hand slightly behind the paddle, that's known as an Eastern forehand grip. An Eastern forehand grip, okay? So this is a much easier way to have a neutral paddle face. Now, why might you want this? Well, what kind of shots do you hit with a neutral paddle face? Well, when you drive the ball, because you want to keep it low, a neutral paddle face is important. It's also nice when your hand is slightly behind it. That provides a lot of stability there. So when you're hitting hard, you want that stability. So a an Eastern forehand grip can be really useful. If I want to hit shots with topspin, topspin requires a neutral paddle face and a low to high swing path. And so the Eastern forehand grip is really useful for brushing up the back of the ball, okay? You'll even see some people use this grip when they're hitting their volleys, because again, when you volley, you might want to hit with topspin. Sometimes even some players, when they have this kind of like, it's not ideal for this, but you can do it, like an overhead smash or a high ball, when you hold with this Eastern forehand grip, it makes it easier. Whereas if I have a continental grip like this we just talked about, I have to then turn my hand, right? Which can be done, and you can actually generate a lot of speed with that. It's called pronating. But with an Eastern forehand grip, I can just kind of push like that. Okay, so that's the Eastern forehand grip. When your hand is slightly behind the handle, here you go, okay, neutral paddle face. Now, you wouldn't love this grip when you're hitting a backhand, because here, look how, you know, it's nice, it's behind, it's strong. But imagine I'm hitting the backhand this way. Look how my hand is now in front of the handle. That's going to be a really weak position to be in. It's one reason why you're seeing so many players who use that Eastern forehand grip. When they hit backhands, they actually use a second hand, because now you're using the non-dominant hand to really support it, to do most of the work. So it's a way to get away with having a weak grip with your dominant hand by using that second hand to support it. Okay, so it's not ideal, but it can be done. Now there's one more grip to talk about, well, I guess two. There's the Eastern backhand grip. Now the Eastern backhand grip, so remember we talked about the continental grip where the V of my hand is right on top. Well, the Eastern backhand grip is where I rotate it so that the knuckle, the index finger knuckle, is on top, is on the flat part. And so now when I hit, imagine if I'm hitting toward you and I hit with that knuckle on top, this is a really strong hitting position. You'll also notice, here if I turn this way, imagine I'm hitting that way, you'll also notice now how neutral the paddle face is, right? With the continental grip, it opens up a bit more like this, so I have to turn. But with a continental grip, I get that neutral paddle face almost automatically. So for those of you who really love driving your backhand, I like driving my backhand on a third shot. An Eastern forehand grip is really useful because it puts you in a strong hitting position. It also neutralizes the paddle face so you can keep the ball lower. It also makes it much easier to swing up to create that topspin on your backhand. Now, of course, if you're using different grips, you might have to change as the point evolves. And most players, most advanced players will do that. They'll change their grips quickly as the point evolves because different grips have different benefits, right? Is there a complication? Of course, especially when the ball comes fast. So you may not have time when you're at the net to quickly change grips back and forth, okay? So there's always, like anything in pickleball, there's always advantages and disadvantages. Now, there's one more grip to talk about. This is an extreme grip. You don't see it very often, although people like Riley Newman will use it. So we talked about the continental grip, right? Your V of your hand is right on the flat part. We talked about the Eastern forehand grip, where your hand is slightly behind when you're hitting that forehand. We talked about the Eastern backhand grip, where that knuckle, index finger knuckle, is right on top, okay? Now there's one more, and it's called the semi-western grip. And the semi-western is just further over. So back to our continental. Let's say I'm hitting a forehand that way. I rotate a little bit, so my hand's a bit behind. Now I have the Eastern forehand grip. If I rotate further now look, here. It's Cherokee, so imagine I'm hitting that way. And look how now, it's not even a neutral paddle face like we saw with the Eastern forehand grip. I rotate even further and see how it naturally tilts downward. Now, why would someone do this? Well, those of you who come from strong tennis backgrounds, this is a very common grip because in tennis there's so much topspin produced, especially because the strings can help you to do that. This is a very common grip. So if you're a advanced tennis player who's just coming over to pickleball right away, this might be something you're really familiar with. This does, of course, require, you can imagine if I've got a downward facing pickleball paddle, I need some sort of upward impulse so the ball doesn't go in the net. And by having this extreme grip, this forces me to now really swing up. So if you're someone who loves to play with topspin, let's say driving the ball in the third shot, Callie Smith comes to mind as someone on the women's side who likes to do that. Riley Newman plays with this grip a lot. Who else can I think about? There's lots of other ones. I'm trying to think about Baby Curios, whether... Anyway, doesn't matter. We can find some of those later. But it's a pretty extreme grip. Not recommended for most players because it always requires that upward swing path. You certainly wouldn't want to use this grip, this semi-Western forehand grip, on the backhand, because look how far in front that is. It's very weak. That's why someone like Riley Newman, who uses this grip a lot on his forehand, will use that second hand on his backhand, even when he plays backhand dinks, to provide a little more support and stability. Okay, so there you go. That is your crash course in pickleball grips. One last time, the Continental Grip is when the V of your hand is right on that top bevel. Slightly open paddle face, you can play all shots with it. If you turn it slightly, so now your hand is just a little bit behind the paddle when you're hitting a forehand, it's called an Eastern forehand grip. If you keep going further, you've got a semi-Western forehand grip. If you go even further, it's called a full Western. Not many people will use that full Western, at least in pickleball. And if you're going the other way, if you're talking about a backhand, you've got, here's your Continental again. You turn it slightly so your knuckle is on top. Now your hand's a little bit behind, and that is a strong grip. If you want to rip those backhands with one hand, you can use that. Okay, got any more questions for me? You can always find me, Mark, at thirdshotsports.com. You can find us on Facebook. Write a comment here below if you want me to address some sort of pickleball thing. Spending a lot of time home these days, not really traveling coaching, so I'm happy to talk to you here. Okay, Mark at thirdshotsports.com is how you can find me. Comment below. Have a great Friday. Bye. Oh, I guess I should plug something. We just relaunched our newsletter. It's called Inside Pickleball. Check it out, thirdshotsports.com/newsletter. You can see Inside Pickleball. It's pretty good, and it's totally free. Okay, bye.